1 p.m. I'd like to call this meeting to order. The first order of business would be to appoint a chairperson. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to nominate Clarence Haynes.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, congratulations, Clarence. You are the chair, and I now turn the meeting over to you.
Thank you. We'll go on and complete the board reorganization. We have nominations are in order for the position of vice chair. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll nominate Eric for vice chair.
Is there a second?
I'll second. It's Amanda.
Amanda, but seconded by Amanda. Any further nominations? Any further nominations? Any further nominations? If not, Chair, I'll make. Someone like to make a motion that the clerk cast one unanimous ballot for Eric as vice chair.
Do we have a clerk?
Not yet.
Until they're reelected, we do. So that's George.
George.
And
Is he
he's
here?
not here. So
George won't be here tonight, Clarence.
Meredith is going to be the acting clerk tonight. So
Okay.
can you cast that ballot?
Yes, I will.
All right. Who made that motion? Meredith, right?
Yes.
Who's going to second it?
Amanda.
Amanda is seconded. I get
Yes.
confused here. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No one opposed. Therefore, motion is carried, so declare it. And Eric has been elected as vice chair. Clerk. Who would like to be clerk of the board for the
I'll take
ensuing
it on
year?
if nobody wants it.
I'll nominate Meredith Morgan.
Is there a second?
I'll second. It's Amanda.
Seconded by Amanda. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? If not, the chair will accept a motion for one unanimous ballot for Meredith Morgan as chair, with the vice president submitting the vote.
I think it's clerk, but that's okay.
Oh, well, I didn't want you to vote for yourself.
Oh, but I mean, the position is clerk, not
The
chair.
position is clerk. Oh, yes. All right. The position is clerk. Position of clerk, and Eric is going to submit the ballot. Do I have a motion to that effect? Who would like to move that? Nomination cease and that Eric can submit one unanimous ballot for the office of clerk. Oh,
How
come
does
on.
this work? Does anybody just jump in and say that?
That's a formality, right?
Okay.
Meredith, Amanda, you submitted, you made that motion, and who's going to second it? Eric?
Yes, I will.
Yes.
Amanda made it. Eric seconded it. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carried, so declare it. All right. Meredith. Remorning board members. Well, that's without saying. That's George. Yes.
Courtney,
Courtney Bishop,
yes.
and
Ryan.
Ryan DeSell. Is that how I pronounce it?
Yes, that's right.
All right. Next job is electing the 3 voting members for the GRSU meeting. What we've done in the past is elected 3 people, and the other 4 in this case get to serve as alternates. So at any time, any one of the 3 can't make it, or if just one of the others is present, they have a right to vote.
Yep.
With that in mind, we need to elect 3 or appoint 3, however.
I'll volunteer for that as usual.
Eric
I'd be
volunteer.
glad to also.
I would like to do it if, but it's eligible for anyone else that would like to be considered.
Did I say yes?
Yes. So the chair, the vice chair, and the clerk have agreed to serve as the 3 voting members, and the other 4 members are alternates. If that's agreeable with everyone, let's have a motion to that effect.
So moved.
So moved by Eric. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Meredith. Any further discussion or questions? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion's carried, to so declare it. Regular meeting schedule. We've in the past, we meet the first Wednesday of the month. If someone would prefer another date, we can work for another date, or we can stay with that date on a once a month meeting. Does that work for everybody?
Yep.
Is that a problem for you, Ryan?
No, that works for me. Thank you.
That works for you?
Yes.
Does that work for you, Amanda? Amanda?
Yep, works for me.
Okay. All right. So by consensus, we'll stay with the first Wednesday. Date of the annual board retreat. We've done this in various formats for the last couple of years. I personally feel it's important that we have a meeting or have some set aside time to get to know one another a little bit, talk about how the board will operate for the coming year and what our priorities are and so forth. It's not such a structured meeting. I don't know. How's everyone else feel about retreats?
I think it's a good idea.
Uh,
My first meeting was at a retreat, so
Thought they'd all be like that.
yeah. We makes it a little difficult to. How do you do a virtual retreat? Do we want to hold off on this for a month or so before we set a date? My understanding or listening to the governor and the secretary, there's a whole lot of stuff coming down. There's a lot of change in the wind right now. So we don't know just where we're going to be at educationally.
And I think that's what we talked about last year too, was that we would wait, and we ended up not having a retreat as well. So, I mean, if we do that, as long as we don't forget,
Yeah,
keep it on the agenda as old business down the line.
I think a retreat tends to, maybe that was a good place to make sure that stays in old business. If we get so we could have something in person, I think it's much more effective than it would be a Zoom meeting for a retreat. I suppose we could do it Zoom, but it's I think at least one in-person meeting would, if we're legally allowed to it, if we could use a school building, it would really be helpful. So we could go from there. So if that's agreeable, we'll leave that on hold, leave it as old business on an ongoing agenda until we, so it doesn't get forgotten. And we should know more in a month or so. Retreat. The annual meeting is a week before the town meeting. So no particular reason to change that. It's the Wednesday before town meeting is what the date we've set. I believe that's in our articles of agreement. So there's no reason to go to the voters to change that. So if there's no objection, we'll leave that right where it is. If that's agreeable to everybody. Hearing no opposition, we'll leave it. Affirm the use of Robert's Rules of Order for small boards for the ensuing year. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
So moved by Eric. Is there a second?
I'll second. It's Amanda.
Seconded by Amanda. Any discussion? All that is, Ryan, if probably you're familiar with it, but all it does is make the chair an equal and participating member. I don't get to break ties or create ties. I get to make motions and vote right along with everybody else. It's the biggest part of that. That's basically what it does. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those
Aye.
opposed. Were you in favor or opposed, Meredith?
I was in unfavor.
In favor or on?
In favor.
In favor. Very good. Thank you. Motion carried, so declare it. Review and accept the policy, the VSBA Code of Ethics. Can we put that on the agenda for next time, Chris? Because I don't believe we have a copy of that in our possession tonight.
You
don't
should
think
have, it should have been right after the reorg documents, Code of Ethics for Vermont School Board members. But I can put it up if it was that one-page document, but we can.
I printed off what she sent for reorganization, and there was only two pages. There's 2 pages to it.
It's here.
Oh, all right.
Code of Ethics for Vermont School Boards.
Okay. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll move to adopt or accept VSBA Code of Ethics.
Is there a second? I'll second that. All right. Any discussion or questions? Ryan, did you get a copy of all this stuff?
I don't think I have a copy of that in particular, so maybe somebody could forward it to me.
Okay,
Yeah, it's number 2.
Okay, I can go back and look too.
I'm assuming this is the same one as it's always been.
okay.
I don't think it's changed.
All right. I just want to make
Does
sure.
Ryan have a new email yet, or are you still using your own email?
I've only given my personal one. Do you use different ones for this?
Yeah. So Ryan, we're going to be working with Wendy Bixby tomorrow onboarding you. So we'll get all that stuff set up for you tomorrow. Okay. So Wendy will be reaching out to you to get everything ready to go.
Okay.
Is somebody forwarding this stuff to her tonight?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and do that.
Okay.
Thanks, Meredith.
All right.
Yeah.
Ryan, did Wendy send you anything? She was
I
supposed
have
to send you the
only
board packet.
communicated with Meredith so far. Nothing from Wendy.
All right, let me just double check here because I even gave her your email address.
Looked like she was on the list. I saw that, so I thought she probably received this stuff.
I
But
added
I
her to the
just-
list this morning, but
Well, the stuff Wendy would have sent would have been a couple days ago, so probably it missed that way.
but I asked Wendy this morning to send, and she said she was going to. So I'll let you know. We'll get to you, Ryan. I apologize.
Okay. Copy of the ethics. So the motion's been made and seconded to adopt the code of ethics. Any further discussion or questions? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried, so declare it. Identify where agendas and minutes will be posted. Currently, they're posted at the schools and the central office, right? I think that's where they're posted. And if they can be, did they get sent to the town clerk's offices or no?
Yes,
I'm not
Claire.
sure.
Wendy does send them to the
Yes.
town clerk as well.
Okay, so then they could very well be in the town offices also.
I was going to say, where are they displayed in the central office? If
I think meeting notices are on the front door, the outside door.
At the
Or they
central
had
office, no, there's a bulletin board on the inside where they're posted, but
okay,
it's more or less covering the law. So they are available. The firm, the choice of attorney, is currently we have Chris Leopold, who is attorney for the supervisory union. We don't have to have the same attorney, but we can, and we have pretty much so far, unless we have something that is in conflict and we have to have a second opinion. Anyone see any reason to change existing relationships?
I don't.
If not, we'll leave it like it is with Chris Leopold. Identify media source. Media source, I think we used the Free Press. Lewis called me about posting the warning to see if it needed to be put in the paper, and I told him the Free Press was fine, but the Free Press had changed hands, so I didn't know what their deal was now. But the Free Press covers complete coverage for the town of Middletown and the town of Wells. So I thought that, but then I wound up seeing it in the Rutland Herald too. So I don't know what transpired, whether the Free Press couldn't do it in a timely manner or what happened. I don't know if you know anything about that, Chris.
we just decided just to have maximum coverage, just to cover all our bases, to post in the Herald as well.
Okay, I just I wondered, but it was so our media source is the Free Press, because that gets
Right.
coverage for everybody.
And the problem
Authorized-
also, real quick, the problem also, Clarence, is the Free Press goes out every Friday. We wanted to make sure that It was posted before Friday, so that's why I went with the Herald.
Okay. It was a date.
Yes, correct.
A
Had to make sure
timing
it appeared correct. Correct.
timing situation. Okay. Not a problem. Um, Authorize the administration to request and expend available grant funds from the Agency of Education as well as state and federal funds. We need a motion to this effect that allows the superintendent to actually collect grant funds and expend them and control them in our name, so we don't have to doesn't have to come to the board for authorization every time he wants to apply for a grant or accept grant funds or spend them. So I will move that we authorize the administration to request and expend available grant funds from the Agency of Education as well as state and federal funds. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Seconded by Eric. Any discussion or questions? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. Motion carried, so declare it. Authorize board to borrow funds from USDA pending receipt of payments from. Oh, all right. This authorizes the board to borrow funds for the Unified Union School District pending receipt of payments from the State Education Fund. This just allows our business manager to go find funds for us to approve, buying them to keep ourselves afloat till the state aid money comes in. I will move that as a matter of principle. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Amanda.
It's Amanda.
Yeah. Any discussion or questions? Kind of a formality type order of business. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carried. So,
I just missed a whole bunch of the meeting. I can't get on my computer for some reason, so I don't know what you guys just talked about, but
authorized grant funds to borrow money and to authorize the Union School District to borrow money and waiting for the state money to come
yeah,
and identify the media source as the Free Press.
okay.
And Chris Leopold is the attorney.
Okay, thank
Those,
you.
I think is the only thing you might have missed. Authorize the chair to sign director's orders or other documents on behalf of the board as necessary. I'd like to change that. Authorize the chair to sign or designee. I'd like to add in there. And I would designate any other member of the board that could sign for this. If I can't, there's no reason to paying the bills should be held up if I can't make it in to sign an order on a certain day. I'm more than happy to do it on the phone, but Eric's been taking care of that quite nicely for a period of time, so I see no reason to change that if it's not a. Therefore, I would move that to authorize the chair or designee, any other board member, to sign other on behalf of the board where necessary. Someone want to second that?
A second.
Motion made and seconded to authorize the chair and or his designee, the any other member of the board, to sign director's orders and other documents on behalf of the board as necessary. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. And I just,
Aye.
sorry,
Yeah.
Clarence.
Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to, just add a little bit more to that. And a lot of what Clarence is talking about are the warrants that, we get in our packets for review. and at some point they need either a verbal approval or to be signed. And so typically I'll have time to go down and do both. Anyone could do that as well. So I just wanted to, put that out there, that, it is another thing that we can do is just oversight, but it's when you see the warrants, you just see the amounts and that's it. You don't see exactly what's there.
Anyone wants a better handle on what's going on or a more detailed handle, that information is available to all board members, and they could go look those over before they're signed. And it's not. And along that same line, if you see something on there that you really don't think ought to be paid the way it is, just put a note on it. Tell them to hold a check. All right. And we have a board meeting, we can talk about it. It may just decide to go right ahead, but you have a right to say, hey, wait a minute, the board ought to be talking about this before the check goes out.
Yeah.
It's just something you have a right. It's not, we don't hold it up. I don't think we've held anything up this year. In previous years, I know things have been held to a board meeting if you have a question about something.
Yeah, Kathy's really good about getting back. I mean, if you have a question, you can just email too. Like if you're looking at it, you want to know why that amount is that much, and so they're really good about getting back.
Yeah, any question I've had has always been answered good, but I think that and we voted to approve that. So we have assigned you as our subcommittee representatives. Okay. We've had a finance committee wrong, but they haven't. The supervisor union changed over. The finance committee responsibilities were given to the executive committee. So the finance committee, I don't believe has met per se as a committee, because we had Courtney was on that committee for us, and I don't believe that there's been any meeting there. And Lewis, sometimes they used to meet with Lewis sometimes to help develop the budget. Is what it was for. But we can appoint people to a finance committee, or we can wait and see what materializes at the supervisory union level before we decide on that. Was that a question?
Clarence, Courtney sent me a message and she's unable to attend tonight because it's her son's birthday. But she said she would be willing to do finance committee again if needed. So I'm not sure if we just want to take that information and roll with it, but that was the message I got from her this evening.
Okay. We can put Courtney on and anyone else that would like to, and knowing full well they may not have any functions to do it. I would be agreeable to that. Anyone else want per se to be on the finance committee, understanding that they might very well not be called upon to meet? I'm not hearing a lot of volunteers.
If we need a second person, I can go with her. If we don't need a second, then if we want to just say Courtney, whatever you guys are good with.
Well, I think Amanda Whedon and Courtney Bishop are two fine names to have down there for the finance committee. So that's filled out. Negotiations committee, it says two. We've had two or more people show up at these meetings. The only thing that caution that had to be, we only basically get 2 votes, that's per se. But the other thing we have to worry about is we're a 7-member board, so we can't have 4 people show up, or else we're having a meeting. that's a negotiable point. Let's put it that way. If it's a committee meeting of the supervisory union, then 4 members from here aren't a quorum, but 4 members from here are a quorum for Wells Springs. And it's not warned as a Wells Springs meeting, so we have to watch that. Negotiations is, in my mind, is probably one of the most important things. And this past year, myself and Eric and Meredith were all there for most meetings. If any one of us couldn't be there, there was always at least one and 2 others that served. And George even attended a few times, if I remember right. We're starting negotiations the 1st of April. So I would like to continue in that stead. And I see no reason why I would like to suggest that we continue with the same 3 people on there, knowing full well we can't have 4, but if we only got 2 votes, fine. But we all ought to be knowledgeable of what's going on, because that's very important. That's 85% of our budget is labor, and that's negotiating the labor contract. So
Yep. I don't have a problem doing it again. And like I said a couple months ago, if it comes down to just being 2 of us, I'll definitely take a back seat to Meredith. 2 more experienced negotiators, so you and Meredith.
all right. So I'm going to put down Clarence, Meredith, and Eric on the negotiating committee.
Yeah, but it's very important to have Eric there and anyone else who wants to attend, so we can jump in if we need to, because yeah, it's helpful. It's how you learn.
Very true.
Okay.
Very true.
Policy committee. We need 2 people for policy.
I'll volunteer for that again.
I'll volunteer.
I'll go.
Help.
Oh, yeah, go.
Or Amanda.
Was that Ryan? Were you
Go,
volunteered
Ryan,
for that?
all you.
Yeah, I was.
All right.
Can you hear me okay?
What?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. When you're unmuted, yes, I was able to hear that.
Okay.
Currently, right now, I'm chair of the policy committee. Whether that'll continue or not, it remains to be seen. But I don't count myself as a member of it as chairman. As chairman, I count myself as a member because I'm the vice president of the supervisory union, is how I got to be chair of the policy committee. So we'll go from there. Hiring committee, 1. That's someone from the board that anytime they interview someone for a position, the principals like to have at least 1 board member on the final interview committee. And so we've tried to appoint someone to it if we wanted to, but quite frankly, it gets down to who the principals can find that's available to come to when they're having the meeting, for at least 1 person. Here again, we could have more than 1, but we just have to be careful about being a special board meeting, because they can't. If you have more than a quorum, it's basically the board sitting there making a decision outside of a board meeting on who's going to be hired, and that's not quite. We have to approve those hires, so we couldn't be. So if we want to, on the hiring committee, we want to leave as available. You know,
Yeah.
whoever the postmasters, yes, whoever the principals can get on any given day when they're having the interview. That work for you, Liz, too? Okay. All right.
How would that work as far as communication? I mean, would principals email a whole board to ask, or?
Well, usually Rick picks up the phone and says, Clarence, can you do this today? We're interviewing this afternoon or tomorrow morning with such and such. Are you available? You know, or I was on the committee when we hired Liz. I forget if there was another board member there at that time. I mean, it was on Morning in Wells. That's all I remember about it. I don't know. I haven't. I don't know who's been on. Who's been on lately. The whole idea is when the board meets to discuss this new hire, there should have been someone there that sat in and listened to the thing that can bring information to the board in executive session if they want to know, was this question asked, was that asked, what was the response, what's your feelings, you know. So it was that's how it did. It's kind of because some of these interview committees come together, I want to say in a hurry when they get the candidates weeded down, so there's one or two that can come at a specific time, so that a committee can get together and interview them all at the same time or right in succession. So a recommendation comes out of it. At least that's the way we've handled it in the past. The final call is, well, if we were hiring a principal, and don't get me wrong, I'm not looking to hire principals now, but if there's been a change in state law, the superintendent gets to pick the principal, and they can ask the board about it, but they're not required to. They can have whoever they'd like as principal. Our principals have always found it a very positive to have a board member involved when selecting current staff, you know, because we're going to have to deal with them. So we have some input on them going in, and not wait till there's a problem and then we have to be in the removal process. That answer your question. Have you? I don't know what. Have you had a chance to hire anybody, Liz, lately where you've had the committee?
Yes, Eric's has served on a couple of interviews with us, as well as reaching out to George. So happy to do whatever the process you guys feel is best for communication.
It's under. I don't know. I hate to have just one person designated when we can just because we never know who's available, you know.
I find that, you know, these being virtual and stuff, it's really easy to get to the committee meetings. So it's kind of nice to just be able to take an hour, just pop on the computer or phone or whatever. So
I hadn't given that thought, Eric, because I guess I did a janitor virtually interview this past year. If I stop in Middletown, I was thinking for one of the three that we've hired this year, I think. So we'll go there. Maybe that's a good point, that the principals could put out a notice, an inquiry of when it's going to be, that on who might be available, because if it is virtual, it could be it would be a little different than then at 2 hours, something different. So a certain place at a certain time for 2 hours, it's something different. So, okay.
That was kind of my thought. Like, 'cause they sent out an email to the board, and then, you know, if I responded, I said, yeah, I can do it. And they said, well, George beat you to it. Okay. You know, so that sounds.
Or if both of you could do it, in the fact, if you're staying under 4, we're all set, you know?
Okay.
But it could work, especially when it's virtual. So we'll leave it as the principals can get a hold of the board, put out a call, so to speak, and whoever responds, they can pick and choose to get at least one person there. Okay?
Sounds good.
I'll leave it like that. With that, I think that, yeah, that takes care of the,
Eric, did you want to add the facilities committee?
oh, yes.
Yeah,
Yes, Eric spoke to me about, we used to have a facilities committee on this list that we had that didn't get done last year, probably because we went by this list instead of one that Deborah had given us the year before, I think it was, or we had a facilities committee, and we had one from each school, and it was George and Eric, but it could be the two of them, or it could be the, and speaking with Eric before, I thought it probably makes sense to go back to facilities committee. They would not need to meet. They were meeting for an hour before the regular meeting on that. I mean, there's nothing to say they couldn't, but to meet every month was got to be a little redundant on where they were. But if we had a facilities committee, especially since starting the 1st of July, we're going to have a facilities managers. Is that the title that we're talking about, Chris? There's going to be a new facilities person managing the two schools. It probably makes sense to have a facilities committee that meets with this person, you know, sees what's going on in the two buildings, you know, could review anything, and could have something that they could report to the board periodically about projects that are ongoing or what's going on, and what this facilities manager is doing, and you know, help them, give them a little oversight with the principals, but it'll also ties into the board. It keeps everybody in the loop, so to speak, without having the facilities manager need to show up at the board meeting to explain all this to the board every month, to have an item on the agenda. They could just deal with it. Not that they couldn't come, but for the most part, the facilities committee could report quarterly or some such matter, as needed, you know. But it would designate a couple people as a facilities committee members to do this legwork, if that's agreeable to the board. That we had that a couple of years ago. I seem to think it seemed to work. You know, tell us what was going on and what was planned and why, so you don't have to wait till you see it happening to know as a board member that you're doing it, or that somebody's looking into it.
Yep.
And I'm sure, Eric, you'll volunteer for that committee. Yeah. Who would like to?
Eric will.
Also volunteer. Eric will. Eric has, but he can't have both slots. We need someone else, a second person on the facilities committee.
I would do it if George doesn't want to, but with George not being here, I don't know if we should wait and give him the chance, being he's closer in Middletown.
Why don't we put George on, and he decides he can't do it, we'll replace him. That way we'll have representation of both schools, theoretically. We're all the same district, so it's not us and them, but that might help. And if any time either one of them couldn't do it, we could very well get somebody to fill in from the board that could do the same thing. You know, I'd be more than happy to do it on occasion. I just takes me longer to get around to look at things, and not that I mind doing it, but some of this is inside and outside, and in the basement and in the attic. You know, not all the time, but some of it's more than discussion; it's more looking. So, without further ado, it's Eric and George, unless there's objection. So appointed. And with that, that concludes that 10-minute reorganization that took 45.
Can I ask Clarence, just because I'm the clerk, is Shauna still going to be recording secretary?
We haven't discussed that in particular, but I see no reason to change that. If she can, is she going to be able to do some of these meetings, or will they all be recorded and remotely? Chris, you know what's
Currently, we're going to be recording. She'll have to do it remotely. She's trying to figure out a way to attend meetings moving forward.
okay. Actually, the minutes are going to be done elsewhere.
Right.
Great.
Right.
Great. Yes, I agree. That'll I don't know what's going on with my thing. All right. So now we move on to the agenda. Board reorganization's out of the way. Approval of the agenda is for approval of the agenda. Deletions and changes. I'd like to add approving the annual meeting last year and this year.
You mean the minutes?
I don't know if we have minutes. Approve the minutes and add them in under make it a third bullet point to adopt those two sets of minutes. Any else want any changes or additions to the agenda?
Yeah. I was thinking I didn't want to wait until it was too late, but I was wondering if we can add, we did this last year, but teacher appreciation week.
Yes. I was thinking about that. I don't know where we add it, under new business, probably.
Yeah.
When is teacher appreciation?
It's in May, the first week in May.
Okay. So we need to get moving on it if we're going to have something on a timely manner. Okay.
Pretty much.
All right. So that's added for new business. Is there anything else?
Could I add?
Oops, go ahead.
Could I add an executive session for a student issue?
Yeah.
Clarence, can I add an executive session for personnel?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I wanted to add something to the effect of a thank you to our two communities for supporting our budgets, etc. So I want to do a little mini press release, but I don't know how you want to discuss that at some point. New business, whatever.
New business. Yes. News. Yes. All right. So that we'll put that under new business. Anything else? Changes to the agenda. If not, a motion to approve the agenda as amended. I'll move that. I'll move that. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Eric. Any discussion or further questions? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Wiggle or nose something. All those opposed? Motion's carried, so declare it. Ryan, did you get a copy of the agenda?
I did not.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Brian, can you check your Gmail? Wendy said she sent it to you twice.
I've been checking, and I
Okay,
can't. I've been getting emails from Meredith, so I'm not sure. Maybe it's not
Gmail? She just said Gmail. That would be your new. So looking under Ryan.DeSalle@grsu.
Oh, I just got it from her. It just came through.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. So it's way down the bottom. There's 12 different documents. A lot of them are policies that we'll get to later on. All right. I just hate to ask you to vote on things that you haven't seen.
I'll have it. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So the motion been made and seconded to approve the agenda as amended. Any further discussions? Not all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed. Motion carried. So declare it. All right. Public comment. General public. Cindy, you qualify as general public tonight. At least you have anything you'd like to say?
No, I'm just glad to be here to listen in. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else on the line that would like to speak? That's at the meeting, general public.
No, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Joy. All right. General consent agenda, approval of the minutes. Motions order for the minutes of February 3rd, February 16th, and the 2 annual meetings minutes. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll move to approve the minutes.
All of them?
Yes.
All right. Is there a second?
I'll second. It's Amanda.
You'll second by Amanda. All right. Any discussion or questions? There's a second set of minutes from a correction that a modification that Nora made, something that wasn't clear in the first set that it is now. It was fixed. Lewis took care of that for us. But other than that, so that's the set of minutes that we're adopting for the annual meeting. Any further?
Is that the one you sent us tonight, Chris?
Yes, that's the updated one.
That's the updated one. All right. Is there any further discussion about anything that was in the minutes? It's a regular monthly meeting, the carousel meeting, and 2 sets of annual meeting minutes. All right. All those in favor say aye, or raise their hand, or wiggle their nose, or something.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion's carried, so declare it. All right. Approval of the warrants. Warrant 148 and 153. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll move to approve warrants 148 and 153.
I'll second it. Is there any discussion or questions? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed,
Aye.
motion carried. So declare it. All right. Superintendent's report. Chris.
Thanks. I actually, during the meeting, I sent you an updated report just because in the first bullet point, there was a bit of a misunderstanding, but we'll get that corrected. So majority of this past time has been getting ready for the informational meeting and the budgeting. We had the Wellsprings informational meeting on the 24th. We had a presentation made by myself, Lewis, as well as Rick and Liz. It was a pre-recorded presentation. We felt that was the best way to handle that because of just the logistics of the call. So we thought it'd just be smooth and seamless. I thought it went well. I think we're moving forward. We may look at doing something similar even when we're back to in-person meetings. So kind of like Meredith said, I do want to thank the communities of Middletown and Wellsprings for supporting our schools and for saying yes to the school budget vote, as well as for Article 4. We do greatly appreciate all the support, and I also want to thank the administrators, Lewis, as well as our teachers for just all their hard work over the course of the year that have helped lead to the passing of the budgets. So it was good news. It was nice to go to sleep last night, just knowing that we had a budget passed and we can begin planning for next year. The next round for COVID testing will take place March 10th. It's the same process as we've always had. Once we have some results, we'll release those to you, probably the next meeting in April. We also recently learned, I'm sure you've heard about this, that all teachers, staff members, and schools will begin receiving their vaccinations beginning March 8th. We'll have the opportunity, I should say, to receive their vaccinations March 8th. At this time, we don't really have a lot of plans and what that might look like. We are waiting further information from the state. I know that about 10 minutes prior to this meeting, I did get a survey link from the state in which they're asking us for numbers for eligible staff. So I think they are trying to mobilize and trying to take a look at just what the total numbers are and just what the best way to provide vaccinations for staff. So once we have more of that information, we will be releasing that. We will not wait until the next board meeting. Like I said, I also be releasing it to the staff members as well as to the board, the community, just so they have a better understanding what's going on. Because there may be some impacts on instruction, particularly if we are receiving vaccines, midweek. We've heard, both the positive and the negative, that there are some impacts. People do feel some side effects. So if we follow the same routine as right now with our COVID testing, and all vaccines are given on Wednesday, we may find a large number of staff members have a side effect. It might be out, say, Thursday or Friday, so it may impact instruction. So we'll kind of have a contingency plans for those different scenarios for everyone. All right. And then the last, I've included the second edition of the educated legislative reports. You all should have received that this morning in the earlier draft. Like I said, there's just a lot going on. I know it's a lot, but it's particularly just to stay informed what's going on across the state. So, and I did include the election results for Wellsprings as well as for Ira, Corey Valley, and Rutland Town, just for you to take a look at as well. All right. And lastly, I just want to say congratulations to Eric and Meredith on the re-election, and as well as welcoming Ryan. So look forward to working with all of you again. So thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, I heard I was just caught part of the governor's news conference on Tuesday, where in some of the question and answer period, it said they were asking about this school vaccination business and about how they were going to qualify, and it's all the staff at the school is eligible if their job is a physical presence in a building. They qualify for this vaccination, but the specific question was asked, if the supervisor union office is not an integral part of the building, does their staff qualify? And the answer is no for this, not for this go around. That might be something that hopefully won't become a bone of contention, but that was the official line that was coming out. Now, maybe it'll get changed through the agency. But I thought that was interesting. We got a staff at the central office that runs around to all the buildings, but they aren't going to qualify for this go around. But yet, the superintendent down at Mill River is going to qualify because he's in the building.
So Clarence, they did clarify in this memo that was sent out this evening, while, like you said, the superintendent of Mill River would qualify, but they also identified individuals whose work requires them to have regular in-person contact with students and in school buildings. So if there are central office staff who need to be in buildings on a regular basis, they would qualify.
Okay, I think that it didn't make sense the way they were answering it, that because you're in that building wouldn't, and yet some other people, you've got the same job of running around to buildings. Either one does. Visiting classes, so I just wondered, but I'm glad that was qualified, and I guess they're going to try to set this up with the availability is going to be conducted separately, so it's going to be they're going to try to do it like supervisor unions or buildings or whatever, maybe a clinic in the building, to in a central location. That I think that's probably what the survey is about, that you're getting a message on now.
Yeah, the survey really is just about, it's a head count, just about eligible staff. And I think we have been told that by Friday at the latest that we'll have more details in terms of how the vaccinations will occur, in terms of whether or not it will be school-based or, it'll be through the regional medical centers. But like I said, we really don't know. We're waiting to see what that may look like. So once we have the information, I do know that they have told us that the login will be through the same site as you schedule your COVID testing for. So when our staff members go on to the portal to schedule their testing for next the 10th, it'll be the same site, so they can also go in and log in for the vaccine when it's opened up. So
it was something that said maybe we lost you, Meredith.
Will bus drivers be getting vaccines?
I do believe bus drivers would fall in it because they are in regular, so contractors who work regular school setting, so food service staff and bus drivers would be eligible for vaccination.
Do you know if independent schools are going to be getting them? I've only heard public schools.
That I don't know. Like I said, it does not delineate, and I'm just looking through the memo right now. I
And
can't
we don't
answer
know
that right
about Granville either.
Yep.
That'll be the
Eric, do
question.
you know anything about Granville?
No, I haven't heard anything.
What New York State's doing?
Yeah, so far I haven't.
Because they come out of Granville. I think that may be one question that you have to follow up on. But I also think that from what I heard, this includes daycares, and daycare workers are eligible and under this initial thing at the same time. So I think they're probably, I don't know who's doing the surveying of them to get them in the head count, but there was something about you sign up through the agency just like you did. But I understood that maybe Walgreens and Walmart were two of the places that very well could be administering these vaccines to these people.
Possibly, yeah. I'm not sure. So, and Meredith, to answer, the memo was addressed to superintendents and independent school heads. So I would assume that independent schools are included in this as well. So
that's good news.
Okay.
Chris, is this mandatory for our teachers, or is this optional for our teachers?
That's a good question. I've not heard mandatory anywhere.
It has to be optional because it's an emergency use vaccine, so they cannot make it mandatory.
Yep.
I'm sure so. So the staff can choose not to participate. That's their perfect right. So I think that's part of the reason for the survey is see how many eligible people, how many might show up, as opposed to how many actually will. So.
Well, the survey basically just asks for a count of, as we look at the criteria, just for a total number. It does not ask how many will. So we haven't asked that. So I know there was a survey. I know, Cindy, you can refresh my memory. All days are blurring together. But I think it was like last week that you received that survey, maybe Wednesday or Thursday, in which you could express your interest in receiving the vaccine. Was that correct, Cindy? I'm not trying to put you on the
Yeah.
spot. Okay.
No, yes, it was last week.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
Okay. We got a copy of the official numbers from Wells on this ballot that was sent out. I don't know. Did everybody receive a copy of that?
You mean the copy that I sent you, Clarence?
Oh, probably it is. Oh, all right. Maybe it was. That was. Oh, and Patty sent it to you. So this didn't come from Nora?
No, it came actually probably from Heather to Patty. But Patty is who sent it to me.
Oh, all right. I guess because the numbers don't add up, quite frankly.
Well, they don't include the blanks.
Well, but they have to. If it's
Well, that's why I say I think it's just a screenshot that Heather took of the totals.
Yeah. Okay. Because it's got 501 total, and they don't add up the. The clerk adds up to 516.
Yeah, I think mine might be the highest one total, but.
Oh, all right. Yeah, that's still 415, and so there's 100 votes missing on clerk. All right.
So I got I do have a copy of what they tallied up here of the school ballots, and I don't know what you have, but it was 501 total votes.
Okay.
And so when they counted them, they went through and just tallied up only the circled ones and the write-ins, and then the difference is just the blank ones. So I mean, there was a considerable amount that was left blank.
All right. Yes.
I mean, I could send this to everyone. I don't know what you have.
No,
but
there are no blanks considered here, and so the numbers are total number of write-ins, and like you had 6 write-ins in your race. Is that right? Mm-hmm. And for moderator, that is, you had 6 write-ins, and your and the rest would be blank. Okay. Now that makes sense if the total is 500 and something. But I look at the budget vote. We passed the budget by a margin of 100 votes.
Mm-hmm.
And we had what, 411, 11, so
11, yeah.
411, so that's 90 blanks on the budget.
Is it normal that we have so many blanks? Does that usually happen and maybe I just didn't notice it last year when I came on?
No, I don't think so. No, normally there aren't that many blanks. I'm just wondering that maybe in future years we ought to be more careful, or we ought to design our warning so that the articles are in a different order, so we don't have the budget, the instructions for voting for officers, then the budget, then there's more instructions for voting for officers, and then another question at the bottom, I think, some people just thought that was so much instruction on the election and didn't read it completely when they were going down through. I think if we structured our warning a little differently, the ballot would wind up being constructed a little differently, and so all the articles would be together.
Yeah, that was something Nora suggested. In this ballot around, we moved the school budget up from the bottom, but she suggested that this is something that we can address, next year, I suppose. But making them all the same size, instead of having. But yeah, I think, it's possible. I was looking when I was there, and counting, going through looking for absentee ballot or write-in ballots, and it's really, really weird looking, and you can't help but notice that someone would fill in moderator, treasurer, and clerk, and then skip the budget and then fill in like only one director, and that's it. And it makes me kind of wonder if it's just maybe just a lack of confidence in the budget or something, whereas they just don't know and they just leave it blank.
I don't know. I think it pays us to at least to look at it now, know that it's an issue with a lot of blanks, and maybe we ought to try something different to avoid it in future years.
Yeah,
that's, I guess, would be my own thing. I could see reconstructing the warning a little differently, so the ballot's going to wind up being constructed differently. Might tell you won't never know till it happens. Having counted ballots before, I know that that's sometimes you just can't fathom what a voter was thinking when they did and didn't vote for things. So
we did have a low turnout at the annual meeting too. So really low turnout.
Yeah, but I just wondered that.
I had another
on what happened.
I have another question for Chris about the Quarry Valley election. Did they not elect any board members? I didn't see that on your list.
No, we have 2 open spaces. So I just found out after the report. So there are the 2 proctor positions are open or vacant. So we have to try to fill those.
So nobody ran.
Yep.
So but the write-in votes, did anybody? How big is the checklist in Proctor?
So what I received from Betsy it was all just empty. So I emailed her back to get some to inquire, but I did not receive anything. I spoke with Lisa Meiser. She said that both seats for Proctor are vacant. So I don't know if they didn't get a percentage of the votes needed, or I don't know.
Yeah, but that's pretty small threshold. That's 1% of the checklist, and Proctor's not that big a town, so I don't know. Maybe they have greater population than Middletown, probably, but there's still an awful small physical town. So as far as residential,
they're having a hard time recruiting for that. Drumming up interest. So there weren't a lot of people interested. So
that's for Proctor. They don't have any votes. And what about did they had to have? There had to have been one elected in West Rutland, and
right, Betsy. I don't have the information from Betsy. I just had for the articles and for the. So, yep.
Huh.
So I'll email her. Yeah.
Were people running in Pulteney and West Rutland? Had people filed? Do you know?
So we had one school director in Quarry Valley. So there are actually, two individuals. So Seth Howard and Kristen Ross were running. I do believe they were reelected. So I don't have the numbers in front of me, but
Oh, okay. All right, Chris Howard and Chris. All right, so
Seth
then
Howard and Kristen Ross.
then there's West Rutland. I don't know. They must have had one because they have 3 votes on a 3-year cycle. They would have one, but I was. Did I read this right? That was Tim Hammond not reelected in Rutland Town?
That's correct. Billy Canfield, I'm sorry, had beat him for the position.
The 2 3-year terms, and this Jeff
Colomb was elected for a 3-year term. I believe Jeff was in Matt Branshaw's position because Matt chose not to run again.
Okay. All right, so they're a 5-member board, so they have 2 new members.
Correct.
And who's left there over there? Annette and
Lynette, Russ Marsan, and then Tina Keshava, who was elected, but she was running unopposed. She took over for Corrine Rodrigue in November. Corrine left in November, and Tina came on at that time.
oh, she was appointed, so she was
Right.
got the
Running
balance of the term.
Correct.
All right. So they basically have 3 new members of a 5-member board. That might be something different going on up there. Okay. I just wonder how this is going to turn out supervisory union wide. All right. Any further questions for Chris? Did you finish?
So Clarence said that is something I think you and I may want to talk about for the policy committee because we do have some turnover on the committee, and I know our next meeting is scheduled for the 9th, and some of those members may not. Some of the members were not reelected, so we may not have a full committee to meet. So we may want to look at postponing our meeting until after all the reorganization meetings have occurred.
Our meeting's the 9th.
Was originally scheduled for next Tuesday. As we had on the docket, but we may want to push that back just because I know that there are some individuals who were not elected that will not be on the policy committee. So we have not appointed new members yet.
Okay. Oh, the policy committee. I'm
Right.
sorry.
And so Corey
yes.
will not have a reorg meeting by the 9th as well. I think
Yeah,
Rutland Town
okay.
will have to do it. Yep.
Yeah. Cancel the policy meeting.
Okay.
That's easy enough to do right now because we aren't going to have the members appointed. All
That's
right.
fine.
I did have a question for Chris.
Yeah, go ahead.
If he's done. I just wanted to just follow up about the property transfer.
Yep, I have reached out to Jack Facey. I've tried calling him. I've been unsuccessful. Last I heard from him was back in November, and he was waiting on an easement, and that was and I've tried. I said we've tried numerous occasions. Reach out to Jack. I've said, look, it's some information for informational meeting. No response. So I don't know what to do. And I know I talked with Judy about this the other day, and she laughed, not funny, like this is getting ridiculous because this has gone on through, it's like through 4 or 5 different superintendents, and just she does not know what the holdup really is on this.
Okay. Yeah, I think our last update was in December, and
right.
So I just wasn't sure if anything had changed, but hopefully he's not sending you bills.
No, we have not received any bills for him as of yet. So Chris Leopold is sending us bills, but not Jack. So
yeah, never mind. Any other questions for the superintendent? If not, the principal's reports. Let's see. Rick went first last time, so Liz.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you and welcome to Ryan, and congratulations to Eric and Meredith. I also wanted to echo Chris's thank you to the community and the teachers for passing the budget. I slept better last night myself, so that was good. You have my report in the packet that was sent to you. I'm happy to take questions on that. Something I wanted to highlight, this week is Read Across America Week, and our librarian, Mrs. Carr, who works in both Middletown and Wells, put in an amazing amount of work to really promote reading. We've got checklists that kids are filling out tickets for. They're putting it in a bucket for recognition of all of their activities, and reaching out to community members to record readings for students, just trying to bring us all together as best as we can to celebrate the love of reading, which is something that is passionate in my own previous work and current work. So I wanted to thank Mrs. Carr for that, and the teachers for taking on something else to bring some more positivity to our students. We had a fantastic 100th day of school. It crept right up on us. It was really great to walk around and see all of the kids participating in activities. And we created some activities for the kids to come down and to participate by cohorts, just to celebrate, the milestone that we celebrate every year. This year just felt a little more exciting to get there. And so as we think about the spring, we've got some plans in place to continue to further our instruction for students. We've spent some time talking today about center-based learning and some more, and what that's going to look like for the spring and into the fall. Really, and very proud of my staff for taking on these things and to continue to look at data to make our best decisions for students. So that's my report. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer.
I had a question about the winter assessments. Hold on a second, I lost it here.
You haven't got quite enough things going on, Eric. It's a few more things, and then you'd be able to remember all of them.
Okay. It says review data. I don't know, off the top of your head, or maybe later on down the road, you compare that to fall assessments at all? And I mean,
yeah, so we look at the MAPS assessments, the Fontes and Pinella assessments that we do as well, and I create for the staff a side-by-side comparison of fall and winter for the reading scores. MAPS does that within its own programming, so we can see the trends for students. We're able to put them, where they are as far as grade level expectations, to be able to then go further into detail to see kind of what the targeted pieces are that students need support to close gaps, and or what can we be doing for those students who are already on and above grade level as well. So we do take the time. The teachers have access to that data at all times, so they turn in stuff to me, and then I just put it together for them to be able to look at again in further detail.
okay. Yeah, I was just wondering, at some point, I know a couple of years ago we looked at data, and I think maybe sometime down the line it might be nice to know, where we're at and where we're going, I guess.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Chris, you probably wouldn't be aware of that. Maybe, I think Lisa was principal at Wells at the time, so it goes back a ways. But what Deborah did is she shared with us in an executive session the data that we can't have because we're too small cohorts, that showed us, year over year in classes, as a class followed through, were they gaining, were they losing, was our program staying on tag? We could have some of that stuff to look at. We just had to give it back to you within the meeting, but it was very informative, very reassuring that we were doing our job right, and the data actually was backing it up very nicely, or it showed us where there was a gap on where something needed to be addressed. You remember that, Meredith? Yeah. So it was, if we could plan that sometime in the future, Eric, I think that would be good for both schools. I think that was very, even though we couldn't take it, and because of the sample size, it was not it was not readily available, but yet the board could have it. So we had more knowledge of where the program was going and how we were accomplishing our mission.
Yeah.
So maybe that's something to plan on down the road for a future meeting, Chris. That would probably be very well received.
Sure.
Yeah, and that some of that specific data is is tricky for student identification, and I always thought that even if the names were just blacked out, we don't need that. Just students or the results is what's important, I think.
But we didn't need student names, but where there was 3 students in the class, it could still tell you whether those 3 kids did all the way up through. Were they gaining? Were they losing? It may not have been the same 3 kids. You might have lost one and gained one. But anything else for Liz? If not, Rick?
Clarence, I wasn't here for that. Did we compare that to other schools in our district as well, or did we just look at Wells and Middletown?
We had the whole district level that was done on a supervisory union level. We could look at that, but you couldn't have in public forum, you could not have the specific data for Wells and Middletown because our class sizes were too small. What that data had at that meeting was to show us that we couldn't get in the public forum. So was a comparison available? Yes. But the comparison would be against the supervisory union, except, Rutland Town and Pulteney, West Rutland, and Proctor, all that information was available publicly because they had large enough class sizes.
Yep, that makes perfect sense. Thank you.
All right. So, yeah, we could compare it, but it had to be compared the way we did it. That's basically what the answer was, Amanda. Rick.
Well, good evening, everybody. And once again, Ryan, you must have been a stealth candidate because I didn't realize you were running. So glad to have you on. So, and both of us are very appreciative of both communities passing the budget. And yeah, it makes us and the staff feel very good. Once again, my reports, it is in the packet. I just want to share a few things which I think are really important. As you know, COVID has really put a lot of stress on students, families, and we have spent a lot of time looking at the Vermont health standards and having conversations of what we're doing for each of the 8 health standards and having conversations what else that we need to help support. And it's really been a wonderful conversation of what we're doing within the school to support our students. We also took the time to look at Kaiser Health has a wonderful school health climate survey, pulled together a team to go through. It's about 40 or 50 questions. They're really in-depth look into the wellness of the school. And taking that, we're going to develop an action plan. And I also want to share that we're looking at restorative practices. Both Liz and I and staff members met with Amy Conger from Up for Learning. And I love telling the story because I think it really shows the power of restorative practices, which is really community-based and students making amends. So my story is that we on our sliding hill, we had a jump that the students made out there, the jump with the sleds. Unfortunately, it was getting too high. Kids were starting to get hurt. I could have gone on as the principal saying, we're all done having jumps out there, but I actually put it back to the classrooms and teachers having a conversation about why we need to take the jumps down and reasons why. It was a much better conversation instead of me going on the PA saying we're done having jumps. And the power of that, and 6th graders going out to take the jumps down. So it really very excited what restorative practice can bring to the school of strong community, listening skills, addressing when there is an issue, ways of students making restorative reparations. So we're beginning the process. It's going to be what I like about it's going to be a staff and student committee from each school that's going to be doing it, training together. So the plan of having this year's 4th and 5th graders be a strong part of this. And so we're looking at a 8-week, 2 days a week training session. And so I think, once again, a strong community within the school environment, learning environment having that strong academics follows behind that.
Okay. Any questions for Rick about anything? I think that's great that you could have that program where the the simplest way to get it done was you just say, this is what's going to be. The most productive in the long run that's going to work the best is you got buy-in from everybody before it happened. The same thing got done, except it's going to be work, and there's not going to be the resentment that might have been created. That's a real win-win in my book. That was accomplished the goal without creating the animosity.
Yeah. So that's I love that story, and I think it. Yeah. Once again.
Yeah.
I can add to that too, because I got feedback from all those students at my house after, and they all felt valued, I think. So I think it's a great thing. I got the whole rundown from them.
Well, that's good. That those things can happen. Any further questions for Rick? Anyone have about anything? If not, entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
So moved by Eric. Is there a second?
Amanda, I'll second.
Amanda, second the consent agenda. Any discussion or comments? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carried, so declare it. All right. Finance. I don't think we have any finance report tonight from Lewis, other than our budget's all passed, and so something positive for the next year. So we can go from there. Personnel resignations. We have one, right?
Yeah.
We have one resignation. Is there anything else on that page? Just that one, Chris?
Just that one, correct.
All right. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll move to accept the resignation of Skylar Murray
With regret.
with regret.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, right. What was his para? He was a para. Is that it?
Yeah, she was a paraeducator.
At Wells.
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion or questions? Not. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed? Motion carried, so declare it. Non-union contracts. We have, let's see, we have anyone on that list still? We taking care of all those now? Did we do that last time, Chris?
Yes.
So that's should be off the list.
Yep.
They're done. All right. We have new hires. Any new hires this month?
Nope.
No new hires this month. Okay. Old business. We have nothing listed here is old business.
There's
You had the land deal that you asked about, but there was one other thing I just thought of that I can't remember now.
well, there's two there's a support staff and extracurricular on here.
So the support staff should be obviously with that person just resigning. And then the professional staff, I do believe that it's because just it's a 1-year contract expiring June 30th, just more for
I
your.
was talking about contract recommendations. On the bottom of that, there's a
Okay,
support
I
staff
see.
person.
This is for next year.
Oh,
I
who
just
is?
want to make
You're
sure
just
we didn't
approving.
miss it.
No, so
Oh, that's for next year.
yeah, so this is just from what Debbie has said. It's just that we just have to approve contracts because we do have to let teachers know about non-renewals
Oh, yes, that's
April 1st. So therefore, we just have a approved list of individuals with contracts. So
Chris, just for my clarification, the one at the bottom that we're referring to was a move to a gen ed contract from a GRCSU contract.
That's for Nicole. You're
Yes.
talking about, right?
Yep.
Okay.
that's
Yeah, that's what I was
a
talking
move
about.
from the GRSU to Well Springs,
Yes.
and that's for the balance of this year, or
The balance of this year at this time. That's what this piece is on this recommendation.
so that's so it's not really a new hire. Well, it's a new hire for the district
Yes.
because it's a new hire to replace the one that theoretically that left.
Yes, correct. And it would be for next year as well. The contract would be, position would be for next year as well.
But it's a para,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
All right, so a para. So let's just approve it for this year. I'll move that we approve that hire for this year. And Eric's, you want to second that?
Yeah.
The new hire for the balance of this year. All right. All those in favor of approving the contract for the balance of this year for the transfer from GRSU to Wellspring employee. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried, so declare it. All right, the thing I was thinking on under old business, or it's probably old business or new business. We may have to defer this till after executive session, but the way the calendar rolls, April 1 and April 15th, they're April 1's going to get here before we meet again, which is April 7th. Reduction in force, or anybody that's not going to be renewed, has to be notified by, is it the 1st, Chris?
sorry about that. By the 15th will be the first point of contact. So you have by March 15th to let them know initially, and then by the 1st is the final determination. So.
Okay, so all I'm saying is if the board is considering not renewing somebody for whatever reason, they got to be notified before our next meeting.
Correct.
So that has to happen tonight. And we always forget to put that on the agenda in the reorganizational meeting. But maybe we ought to, we're having a student issue and a personnel issue. We probably ought to end that into executive session for a contractual issue, just in case there probably isn't anything, but we at least ought to address that. Because that gets into talking about personnel. We probably better do that under personnel and executive session. And so just, we may have to come back to that if we're making a recommendation other than the status quo that doesn't get forgotten. So that takes care of old business. That takes care of that.
Clarence, do we remember if we ever decided on the electronic communications policy? I can't remember where we left off with that. Did we already approve that? Does anyone remember?
No, we're going to get to that in a few minutes here. It's the approval of that is on the agenda and under policy for the second reading. Okay. So electronic communication will be coming up, Amanda, shortly. We've got the new business to take care of. Let's do these in reverse order. Meredith asked something about a thank you for the committee, for the communities. What do you have in mind, Meredith?
Well, I was Middletown Springs News came out and asked, they always ask every month if we have any news, and we don't ever give them anything. And I think we ought to, especially because our votes went so well. And I don't know, we could also do Front Porch Forum, or if Wells has some other thing, but I think an actual, not just have it in the minutes, is appropriate at this point.
I wouldn't be opposed to if someone is so creative to write something up from the board as a thank you note, and we could get it. I'd like to see it published in the Free Press. I mean, the town news is fine, but I think even if we had to pay for the space for an ad in the Free Press, I would think that would be a good investment. A thank you for the
Support.
strong support for our budgets. I wouldn't go so far as say overwhelming, but the strong support I would think would be. I don't know what anybody else feels about the issue, but I think that maybe I just look at the Free Press more than I kind of like. I always thumb through it to see what's there, and because it has a lot of local news and what's going on.
I agree. I feel that our annual meeting was kind of missed an opportunity to say thank you to the GRCSU administration, the principals, and of course the towns and the town clerks. So I'm totally for it, and I guess the Free Press is a good place to start. Did you have something else in mind, Meredith, for them? Do you think it may be two places, or?
Well, I was really coming at it from a much smaller window, but just because. But I think where you're taking it is appropriate. The challenge is because it's two very, the communities, the Free Press is kind of a better venue for the two communities, I think. But I don't know. I just, it's an opportunity to connect a little bit with communities.
I think there's probably, there's absolutely nothing wrong with using the Middletown News, but also Wells the Wells Village School has a Facebook page, right?
Yep.
Does Mackenzie runs that for the school, Liz?
Mackenzie and I both have the ability to post.
But it is a school.
Yes, it is a school page. Yes.
Okay, so you could do that. Does that cover everybody in town, or just the parents, or just
No,
anybody?
just members who have asked to be part of the.
Okay. You have another vehicle for getting to everybody?
Front Porch Forum? Do people use that in Wells well?
Well,
I don't
I'm
know
not sure
how
I can
many
speak
people
to.
would.
Yeah.
Really?
I know it's there's a link for Front Porch Forum like on the town clerk's office, and people just sign up if they want.
There's a link on the website for the Front Porch Forum, and you could even move that up a little bit so people see it. But could you just do all three? So that way you're targeting everyone. The Front Porch Forum, the Free Press, and the Facebook page, because 2 of those are free.
There's probably nothing wrong with that. Somebody needs to, that's talented in writing something up, the thank you note type that I don't know. If someone from the board would like to volunteer to do it, that'd be great. And if someone wouldn't, or doesn't feel confident, I'm sure the superintendent could pen something that would be very acceptable to all of us, and or designate someone in his staff that's very good at doing it to get this written and get it out.
Well, Meredith, it was your idea.
Yeah, I know. Thanks. I'm thinking at this point I may just respond to the Middletown News and just do a brief thank you for them. But I realize that what you're looking at is more of a press release, so it should come from central office.
I have no problem drafting a press release.
Okay,
Yeah,
Chris.
because then it would really look like, yeah, not just a personal thank you. It's coming from central office. So.
And if you go ahead and crouch it as the board at their recent meeting wishes to thank the voters, as part of that press release, you can write it, give us credit that we were thinking of them, if that's possible, because I think that's important. We could get some good PR out of the deal.
I'll craft it tomorrow morning and I'll shoot it your way. Just take a look at it, and then if you want to add to it, edit it, and then we'll get it out ASAP. Okay.
Okay, send it out to us. Anybody wants to add something to it, fine. If not, it'll fly very soon thereafter by Crystal's week taking care of it. And you'll do the Middletown, and when you see what's going out, Liz, you could put a link or something on the Front Porch Forum in Wells.
Yes, we can do that.
I think that might make sense and take care of all of them. All right. That takes care of the thank you for voters. The other issue we had is the teacher appreciation. Last year we were a little late in getting it done, but we had a letter that was drafted for all our staff and in the 2 schools and the staff that comes in, and we were also came up with a little token of our appreciation that went with it. Whatever the board thinks we might want to do, again, it would be appropriate to get started on it now so that we can have it in a timely manner for the 1st of May. If that's something that the board would like to continue. I guess I'd like to hear the people's feelings on it.
Well,
I It's a great idea. I think the sooner we start, the better the outcome. Can you just remind me, last year, were their gifts personalized?
We gave them a water bottle type thing that just said, what did it say? Well Springs teacher appreciation. I don't know. Remember, Rick, what the inscription said?
Give me a second, I can go get the water bottle.
You what?
Give me a second, I have the water bottle right here. So, but in appreciation for, let me get it.
Okay.
yeah, I think it's a good idea. I don't know how far we want to go this year, but considering everything that's been going on, we should do something.
Do we want to discuss this in executive session?
I don't think it qualifies as executive.
Well, yes and no. It's expending of funds that separate the thing.
Well, yeah.
Why don't we? Why don't I'll appoint a committee of Eric, the executive committee. Eric, Meredith, and Clarence will have a consult sometime and come up with a recommendation for their next meeting. That makes sense. Can everybody agree to that?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Fine with that?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I was going to volunteer to help us with some personalization if needed. So if that's something that you guys decide you think you need, you could just let me know.
Yeah. Okay.
Why don't you include Amanda in the
All right.
group? Yeah, I don't need to be in it.
Well, all right. We'll put Amanda on instead of Meredith. The only reason I say that instead of is because the committee could meet informally to discuss this for a recommendation for the board. If we get 4 of us, we got to warn it as a meeting.
No, I'm fine with that.
So, Amanda, we'll pick a date with Eric and you and me. I'm pretty flexible, so you and Eric we can make a date sometime when we can make it a little later if it's more convenient for you to get home, and we can work around that. All right.
That works.
And we'll get something done so we can have something to present at next month's meeting. All right. For board consideration. Okay.
All right.
So that's done. All right. Any other new business that we have? If not, let's move on to policies. We'll take the policies in 2 blocks. The first 3 are superintendent, board relations, harassment, hazing, and bullying, and electronic communication between employees and things. They're all up for second reading, which means they've been here. We've looked at them. We had input on them if we wanted it, and went back to policy committee. The policy committee made adjustments if and where appropriate based on the feedback, and they were pretty well vetted before they'd gone out the first time. But now they're back out to the boards for approval. Now we don't have to approve it, but this is the form of the GSU policy committee is recommending that all the boards approve these policies in. And those 3 policies you've had a copy of are in the minutes, and they were warned for the prescribed 10 days. And some of them are renewals, are just renewing of the policies. Some have minor changes in them, wording in some respects, and the others are and they're up for adoption. So with that, is there a motion to approve these 3 policies?
I will move to adopt board superintendent relationships, harassment, hazing, and bullying prevention of students, electric communication between employees and students.
Okay, and I'll second that. All right, any discussion or questions about any of these 3 policies?
I just had a question about the electronic communications.
Yep.
And I know that it's more specific around teachers and students. But I was wondering if anywhere in there it would be appropriate to add anything about like our Facebook pages with our families. If there was anything that anyone thought should be added just to make sure that everyone has the same access, because sometimes it's hard with those if you're not, friends with the person or part of the group or whatever. I just think maybe parents might be missing things.
Well, I think we talked about that at the policy committee meeting, and no school should be using a Facebook page that's not the school property. They shouldn't be putting it on someone's personal Facebook page. If you follow me, I have a Facebook account, but I don't deal with it very much. I don't post and I don't do other things, but if a school has a Facebook page, then everyone can have access to it. It's not restricted in any way. No one's unfriended by it. It was that basically the crux of the discussion we had on the policy, Eric, when we were discussing it.
Yeah, I think it comes down to that it should be managed by the school and only by the school. But I'm trying to remember that discussion.
If they're using personal Facebook pages to post to the school website, some parents can't see or have access to those posts on the school website because they're made by a personal page.
Right. So Amanda, I think while we agreed with that, but I think that would not fall into this policy per se. That would be a separate, thing we discuss and take a look at in terms of availability and access to a school related web page or, a social media site. But the electronic use between students and staff really is about, appropriate interactions and setting parameters. So that is more in terms of just more of using a school-based Facebook page that allows all community members access to, correct? That's what the issue was, that you didn't have to be friends with the person in order to access that page. It really should be more of an open public page. I think that's something we can discuss on our end in terms of school-based social media should be open to, it should be a public page that people can join, not have to be Facebook friends or things along those lines, correct?
Yeah, correct.
I think what we did was we said that didn't fit with this one, but we would make sure that there was some policy at some kind that reassured that was what needed to happen, so that someone wouldn't be blocked out like you're saying, where they're using a private page to notify people. That's not appropriate, and we're going to reiterate that wasn't.
Yeah, I just know it's come up where, some parents aren't able to see things, and then at times screenshots of things have to be shared because if they're not friends with people posting, they can't be seen. So I just thought to avoid that, if the only posts on our page were made by Liz or Mackenzie, whether it be from their personal page or a separate page that they make for the school, then that would avoid that for everybody.
Yeah, I think that was the crux that we will get to that. The policy book is pretty thick, and we're trying to get through all the mandatory ones first, and then go on with some of these other issues that need to be drafted that come up along the way in especially in this technology age where everything changes as faster than we can write the policies to defend it. Any other?
Are the policy committees also open to the public or only to committee members?
It's
Public.
another meeting.
It's a public meeting, so anyone can attend, and it's just like anything else. There's a chance for public input, and it could come from a board member, but it wouldn't have to. It's open to the public, period. So John Q. Public is welcome, and it's a GRSU meeting. So the public is basically anyone in most of Rutland County, with the exception of Mill River and Rutland City, are members. To answer your question, any further communication or questions about these three policies? Not all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carried, so declare it. All right, now we have the next four policies. Title I, Part A, Parent Involvement Policy. First reading, Alcohol and Drug-Free Workplace. First reading, Drug and Alcohol Testing, Transportation Employees. First reading, and Student Drug and Alcohol. First reading. Those are the four policies that are up for the first reading. Is basically a discussion, is up for discussion. There's no voting, there's no approval, there's no denial. If someone wants some comment about some of them, that they don't like something that's here, there's something that ought to be looked at, they disagree with part of it, whatever. This is a time for input from the board. These have been looked at, and we vetted all of these somewhat, didn't we, Eric?
Yes, and I believe there's only one new mandatory one. The rest are just review.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find it. Actually, nope, I'm wrong. That new policy was that electronic communication one. Sorry.
Okay. Yes. We labeled. Anyone else? Anyone have any input on any of these four policies? If you're having a hard time sleeping at night, I would recommend them highly for your reading. There's a couple of them here that will guarantee to put you to sleep, but the policy committee didn't go to sleep. We actually did read and review them. So does anyone have any input, questions?
The Title IX will put you to sleep. It's not there.
Chris, you were asking about a policy that didn't make it, and you might be right, it didn't make it. I was looking at a different drug and alcohol policy, not the testing. You sent the testing one?
Yeah, D6, which is a very brief one. It's about testing the transportation employees, which when I spoke with Lewis, Betcha does engage in testing of all employees. So it is in line with our policy. So I was not included in my physical packet, so I sent it out to you.
Oh, I see it now. It is here.
Okay, it is indeed. Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to double check because I didn't have it physically, so I make sure you had it. Take a look at it. It is very brief.
Okay. Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
And if there's no questions, we'll send these back. They've been reviewed, and they'll come back to us after the policy committee's had everybody's review back, and we'll resubmit them out for the second reading for adoption. All right. let's move into executive session then for the purpose of student issue and personnel issues. Who would like to move that?
I will.
Moved by Eric. Is there a second?
I'll second.
At 8:06, we're moving to executive session for our student and personnel issue. We will be back online whatever time we get done to finish up the agenda, which basically is confirming the next meeting and adjourning and any other lawful business that might come thing. So at this time, we would excuse Joy, and I think we've lost Cassidy. And now we'll entertain a motion to approve the recommendation list from Debbie for getting contracts out for
I'll
next
make
year.
a motion to approve the contract recommendations.
Okay, it's from Meredith. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Eric. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried, so declare it. All right, now we have future meeting date and agenda items. April 7th is the next regular meeting. We'll, again, it'll be virtual. Still at that point. Agenda items, we have the retreats being left on there. One other thing, and we're going to have teacher appreciation committee is going to have a report for us by the next meeting. I can't think of any. There may be some other things we put on there along the way, but I think those are the main things. Anyone else have anything they want to discuss on the agenda for next month?
So Clarence, one of the things that we may want to do is Rick and Liz may just want to talk about end of year promotion or just ceremonies for sixth grade, just to give public a bit of an update. There won't be a lot, but I think people will start asking questions. So it might be good for us just to have just a public statement on that in terms of where we're at, because if that's okay with Liz and Rick.
Yeah.
Okay.
They may have something that depends on what all this comes in. I know by the sound of the news conference, the governor's pushing Dan French to do something different about end of school. So what that's going to look like is, who knows what will happen. Okay. That Rick and Liz can give us their best thoughts at the time. Any other business, any other lawful business? Maybe that ought to be on here. That Wendy ought to put that back on our agendas. Any other lawful business? That really should be something that gets asked for.
Okay.
At the very end. And now, Ryan and I have this thing that I like to do is this motion to adjourn is just a motion that gets made and seconded, doesn't get discussed, it gets voted. And so I give you the opportunity to make that motion tonight.
Motion to adjourn?
Yes. Is there a second? Amanda, you seconding that motion tonight?
Sure am. I'll second.
Second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? 8:55. Thank you all. It's been a long meeting, but we got it accomplished.
Thank
Good
you.
night. Thank you.
Until next, and under 3 hours.